Class 10, Subject Chemistry, Chapter 3, Metals and Nonmetals, Module 1. Objectives. At the end of this session, you will be able to define metals and nonmetals and discuss the physical properties of metals and nonmetals. Identify the metals and nonmetals from the pictures. Yes, you are right. The first picture is of gold. Gold is a metal. And the second one, coal, it's a non-metal. Third is of water and it's a compound. Fourth is the picture of sulfur, it's a non-metal. And fifth is a picture of wood and it's a mixture. And finally, sixth is a picture of iron nail, which is an example of metal. Last year, you have studied the classification of matter. On the basis of chemical properties, matter can be classified into pure substances and mixtures. Mixture can be further divided into homogeneous and heterogeneous, and pure substances can be classified into elements and compounds, and elements can be classified into metals, nonmetals, and metalloids. But here in this chapter, we are going to focus on metals and nonmetals. Elements. It is a substance which cannot be split up into two or more simpler substances by chemical means. Elements contain only one kind of atoms. For example, we have gold and iron. Gold is made up of one kind of atom. The same way, iron is also made up of one kind of atom. This is a picture of the periodic table of the elements. There are 118 chemical elements known at present. Elements can be classified into metals, nonmetals, and metalloids. Metals are the elements which form positive ions by losing electrons or donating electrons. For example, aluminium is a metal which forms positively charged aluminium ions by losing electrons or donating electrons. Metals are known as electropositive elements because they can form positive ions by losing electrons. Nonmetals are the elements which form negative ions by gaining electrons or accepting electrons. For example, oxygen is a nonmetal which forms negatively charged oxide ions by gaining electrons. Nonmetals are known as electronegative elements because they can form negative ions by gaining electrons. Let us discuss the physical properties of metals. Metals are malleable, that is, metals can be beaten into thin sheets with a hammer without breaking. Malleability is an important characteristic property of metals. Gold and silver metals are some of the best malleable metals. Metals are ductile, that is, metals can be drawn or stretched into thin wires. Ductility is another important characteristic property of metals. Gold is the most ductile metal. Metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. Silver metal is the best conductor of heat and electricity. Lead and mercury are comparatively poor conductors of heat. Metals are lustrous or shiny and can be polished. Metals loses their shine or brightness on keeping in air for a long time due to the formation of a thin layer of oxide, carbonate, or sulfide on their surface. Metals are generally hard except sodium and potassium. Metals are strong except sodium and potassium. We mean that they can hold large weights without breaking. For example, iron metals is used in the construction of bridges. All metals are solids at room temperature except, that's right, mercury, which is a liquid metal. Metals have high melting and boiling points except sodium and potassium metals. Metals have high densities except sodium and potassium. By saying that metals have high density, we mean that metals are heavy. Metals are sonorous, so they are used to make bells. Metals usually have a silver or grey color except copper and gold. Copper has a reddish brown color whereas gold has yellow color. Now let us discuss the physical properties of non-metals. Physical properties of non-metals are just the opposite of physical properties of metals. Non-metals are neither malleable nor ductile. They are brittle, that is, they break easily. Non-metals do not conduct heat and electricity. Exception: carbon in the form of graphite is the only non-metal which is a good conductor of electricity. Non-metals are not lustrous, they are dull. Iodine is a non-metal having lustrous appearance. Non-metals are generally soft. Only one non-metal, carbon in the form of diamond, is very hard. It is the hardest natural substance known. Non-metals are not strong, they are easily broken. For example, graphite is a non-metal which is not strong. Non-metals may be solid, liquid or gases at the room temperature. Solid examples: carbon, sulfur and phosphorus. Liquid: bromine is the only liquid non-metal. Gases: oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen and chlorine. Non-metals have comparatively low melting points and boiling points except diamond, which is a non-metal having high boiling point and melting point. Non-metals have low densities, that is, non-metals are light substances. Non-metals are non-sonorous. Non-metals are of different colors. For example, sulfur is yellow. Phosphorus is white or red. Graphite is black. Chlorine is yellowish green, whereas oxygen and hydrogen are colorless.